Hello, grade 12s. Today we are doing acids and base, particularly this question with more marks. The focus is these 7 marks, but you must get at least 3 marks. I will give you some steps to get these 3 marks. Step number one, you must write a balanced equation. Always start with a balanced equation. Then step number 2, collect the data for each reactant. Step number 3, calculate the number of moles, which means you have to convert the concentration to the number of moles, or to convert the mass to the number of moles. Okay. Then step number 4, you must use the mole ratio to calculate the number of moles of the other one. Use the mole ratio to determine the reactant that is in excess or a limiting reactant. So you must use the mole ratio. Then step number 5, you can start answering the question. Answer the question that was asked. Okay, now let's look at this one. The question says here, calculate the mass of potassium hydroxide used to prepare solution above in 250. That is step number 5. Let's start by step number 1. Write down the chemical equation. Let me start with chemical equation. This is ethanoic acid that reacts with potassium hydroxide, that is KOH. Then we get the products. I am not interested with the product in this case. All right, now step number 2, let's collect the data. The standard solution of potassium hydroxide is prepared in a 250 volumetric flask. During a titration, a 12.5 centimeter cube of this solution neutralizes a 25 centimeter cube of 0.16 ethanoic acid. That is the ethanoic acid. Okay. The balanced equation for this reaction is given as this one. Now let's collect the data. They say a standard solution of potassium hydroxide is prepared in a 250 volumetric flask. So they prepare 250. It's just the main sample. In this case, we have 250 centimeter cube of KOH. They prepared this one, but they used 12.5 centimeter cube of this solution. They use volume engango 12.5 centimeter cube of this solution to neutralize 25 centimeter cube of ethanoic acid. The volume of ethanoic acid is 25 centimeter cube that reacted with a concentration which is equal to 0.16 mole per dm cube. That is the volume, okay, or the concentration. We are done with the step number 2. Let's go to step number 3. Calculate the number of moles that you see. Calculate the number of moles. We are given the concentration and the volume. The formula is N over V. since we are given the volume and the concentration. So we have the concentration, which is 0.16, which is equal to the number of moles that we are calculating, its initial number of moles. Then the volume here is 25 centimeter cube. We convert it to dm cube by dividing 1000. So it's 0.025 dm cube. Then we can cross multiply. So the number of moles of ethanoic acid, initially is equal to 0.004 moles. These are the number of moles initially for ethanoic acid. Now step number 4 says use the mole ratio to calculate the number of moles of the other one. So we are going to use the mole ratio to get the number of moles of potassium hydroxide. Okay, sorry. We are going to use the mole ratio. We have 1 here, we have 1 here. So the mole ratio is 1:1, meaning that the number of moles of KOH is equal to the number of moles reacted, since we are using the mole ratio, is equal to 0.004 moles. They are reacted because we used the mole ratio. Once you use the mole ratio, you get the number of moles reacted. Then we are left with this volume. That reacted, which means we can use this volume to get the concentration of KOH. We can use this volume to get the concentration of KOH. C is equal to number of moles reacted divided by volume reacted to get the concentration of potassium hydroxide. Okay, let's substitute. The volume is converted to 0.0125 dm cube. Then we get the concentration of potassium hydroxide. The concentration of potassium hydroxide is equal to the answer is 0.32. Then the concentration is 0.32 mole per dm cube. So there is that -4 per dm cube. Now the question says, let's go to the question. We use the mole ratio. This is done. Let's go to the question now. The question says, calculate the mass of potassium hydroxide. The mass of potassium hydroxide. The mass. We are looking for a mass now. What we can take is the concentration of potassium hydroxide. Then we answer the question. We have this concentration that are reacted. So we can calculate the mass of potassium hydroxide by using this formula. The concentration is 0.332, which is equal. The mass is what we are looking for. The molar mass for potassium is 39, plus the relative atomic mass for oxygen is 16, then 1 for hydrogen, then times the volume. The volume now, because the question said calculate the mass used to prepare 250, which means the volume now is 250 centimeter cube. We change that 250 to dm cube. Okay, so when we divide by 1000 to 250, we get 0.25 dm cubed. Then we cross multiply. Then the mass now is equal to 4,48 grams. Then we're done with this one. We follow the steps. Then we're done. Now let's go to question number 2.